Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Spiritual Psychic TV. I'm Ashley Robinson, your host, and this is Being Spiritual. A warm welcome to you all across the UK and all over the world. Do let us know where you are watching the show from. Very special welcome this evening to my guest, Miss Kate May, the modern day mystic. Good evening, Kate.
Good evening. It's a miss now.
A miss, yeah. And maybe again, Mrs. soon, yeah. Congratulations.
Yes, it'll be a Mrs. soon. Official last week that I was a Ms. for a year.
Lovely to have you with us this evening. Folks, if you're joining us for the first time, do let us know. One of the best things you can do to make sure you don't miss any of the wonderful shows on Spiritual Psychic TV is subscribe. So you should be watching this stream on YouTube. Click on that subscribe button. Make sure you get all of your notifications for all of the shows and wonderful content. The other thing that we could ask you to do, please, friends, is give us the thumbs up. That lets us know that you like the stream, that all the algorithms and all the mechanisms behind the scenes lets YouTube know that we're doing the right sort of stuff. It gives us an idea about the content for the show too. And the other thing you can do for us is to share this stream. You can come out of the live chat, click on the share button, the right forwarding arrow, and you can copy the link to this stream. You can post it into your Facebook or your Twitter, your Instagram, perhaps tag a friend, let them know you're watching the show tonight. If you're unable to do it right now, if you're like some of my friends who are coming to this for the first time, don't worry too much. You can do it at the end and you can share the content afterwards. But if you want to engage with us, we would love to hear from you. So if you're watching this show, you need to log into YouTube. You can get a free account. Once you're logged in, click on live chat. And then everything you put in that comment is public. It goes into the forum. And then Richard in the Spiritual Psychic TV studio, doing all of the productions work for us, will be able to see those comments, whisper in my ear or show it on screen. And that's the way we can engage with you. Now, I'm really looking forward to this show. It's a great privilege to have my friend Kate May with us this evening. And we're going to be talking about astrology, particularly for me, astrology and spiritualism, and how astrology can be used to help you live your best possible life. And we've often based these shows on my own spiritualist philosophy, my foundations, what I've grown up with, my culture in and around spiritualism. And astrology's been a fairly steady part of that. But I'm a relative novice to our guest tonight, who I certainly regard as a subject matter expert. So really looking forward to hearing a little bit more about astrology and some of the work she does, and a little bit about her spiritual journey. And then we'll be over to you, friends. We'll be asking you to ask us almost anything, and we will then come together as a panel to answer your questions. So do think about your spiritual questions. You'll find out more about Kate May throughout the show, and you can put those questions to us. Now, for those of you that are on social media, you can also make sure you subscribe to Spiritual Psychics TV on Twitter or Instagram. Look for Spiritual Psychic TV. For me, you can find me at Ash Robinson Medium. That's Ash Robinson Medium, both on Facebook and Instagram. And if you look for Kate May, Modern Day Mystic, you will find her on Facebook and Instagram too. Okay. Sorry, friends, that there's a lot of feedback at the moment. We're going to try and sort that out. I think Kate is having a few problems at her end.
What's he saying? I can't hear what he's saying.
Just going to pause for a moment, folks.
I don't have headphones. I don't have any.
So just bear with us, folks, while we sort out the feedback.
Let me see if I can grab some headphones.
Try not to otherwise let it disturb you. So we're looking forward to the show. Okay, so let's do a couple of hellos and welcomes. And Richard, you can let me know who we might have in the watching the stream tonight. See if I can bring up here too. Thank you. And I'm sorry, folks, for those of you that were picking up on that that background noise and feedback. But hopefully we'll have that sorted. So, Mr. Phil Shaw, good evening to you. Welcome to the show. I can see we've got about 30 of us that have joined it so far. Terry Wall, hi Terry. She says, good evening to Ash, Kate, Richard and everyone. And Diana Redmond, good evening, Diana. I'm just going to unmute Kate now, so hopefully we can hear her again. 1 second. Oh, you're muted, Kate. I think you'll have to unmute yourself now. Mary Dixie, my circle leader. Hi, Mary. Good evening to you. Gary Walker says, watching my old mate Ashley with a Chinese takeaway. Life does not get better. Lovely, Gary. Good to have you with us again this evening. Thank you for that. And we can hear you now, Kate. I think that's lovely. Good evening.
Does that work?
Kate. Yeah, that's perfect.
Evening. Yeah, got it.
Lovely, jubbly. Christine Davis, good evening to you. Welcome to the show tonight. And Kelly McKeaton says, hi, Ashley, Richard, and big love to all. Hi. Hello there. Good evening, Tracy Honey. Not too far around the corner from me. And John Bennett.
Evening, John.
Yeah, he says hello to Ashley and Kate and Richard. Stacey Kruger's watching from Texas, first time to the channel. Well, special welcome to all our first-time viewers today, and great to have someone from Texas. Had a fantastic week in Houston about 10 years ago. It's definitely one of my favourite parts of the world. Alison Barton says, evening all. Hello, Alison.
Evening.
Benny Tight, good evening, Benny. And hi, Julie Caswell. She says hello to us all.
Hello.
Big Wimbledon Spiritualist Church congregation tonight we got, and now lots of our regular Spiritual Psychics TV fans. Leslie Knight, good evening, Leslie. And Cherie Dyer.
Evening.
Hi, Cherie. And we do a couple more hellos. Jane, good evening to you. Jane Moulton there. And my dad.
Hello, Daddy.
Hey, Dad. I've left in the capable hands of Ethan tonight. Thank goodness for childcare bubbles. Christine Woodham, my other circle leader, joining us from Spain. Hola, darlings. Nice to be with you. Good evening, Christine. And Jim. Jim, great to have you with us
Evening, Jim.
On YouTube tonight. And Kim Bryan says good evening to everyone.
Hi, Kim.
Okay, so I won't do you all a personal intro. We'll probably be here for a while. Jessica says lots of funny noises as well as you talking. Hopefully, yeah, that's not us producing the funny noises, Jessica, but thank you for the feedback and a warm welcome to you all. Wherever you join us from, lovely to have us with you this evening. And this show is Being Spiritual. So it's all about spiritual philosophy, and it's often been based on my own sort of humble opinions, my own culture and upbringings within spiritualism. But tonight I've got great honour, as I say, to bring in my good friend, Kate May. Kate, good evening.
Good evening.
So, Kate, we first met at Spiritual and Psychic Weekend several years ago now, and I think that you were working with your tarot cards when I first saw you giving a demonstration. But how long have you been involved in spiritual events or spiritualism?
I've been professionally involved for about 14 years now. I've been working with the cards longer than that. I won't say how long because I was about 14, but working professionally for about 14 years now.
And what was it that that got you to take that from, say, working with the cards perhaps as a youngster to doing it professional? What was the draw?
Wow, I kind of just flowed really easy. There was nothing that in my head where I thought this is what I'm going to do for a living. This is going to be my thing. I just started doing it, enjoying it. And I very first started, I worked, didn't work. I took my child to a toddler group, and one of the mums there who were running the group, she was into all the healing and into spiritualism. Was a medium herself, but I didn't know that at the time. And she asked me I was doing therapies at the time, so she asked me to take my couch down to the mother and toddler group, and it was before health and safety. So she said, you can wax the mums and treat all the mums, and the kids will just run around. We'll look after each other's. And then with that, she said, oh, if you're interested in cards, I've got angel cards. I said, oh, I've got tarot cards. So it just evolved from there. We would just read for the mums, and then we would start going out once every couple of months and do small little parties. And then that was sort of from once every couple of months to once every 2 months, then once a month. And then before you know it, it was once a week. And I think I was probably doing it like that for about 4 years, and then thought, actually, I'm going to do this as a work, not as a career, but as work. So I went and studied the tarot, took a few courses in it and different other spiritual development courses. And it just, yeah, it all just came out. I got more bookings, and before you knew it, then it was a full-time job. So it wasn't a dream. It just all fell into place quite easy, really.
Lovely. Now, from an astrology sort of point of view, is that something that has always been of interest to you and involved with the cards, or was that something you came to later?
Yeah, it was actually astrology I got into first. So I think probably when I was really young, 10, 11, I started, like you do, reading all the taroscopes or horoscopes in the magazines with your mum. And I was able to guess all my friends' star signs at school, just working out their personality and somehow just guessing. So right from school with the astrology. And I think the astrology was one of the first courses I ever did. I did a year. I thought it was only a 10-week one, but it ended up being a year astrology course and how to write up a chart. Didn't really understand what I was doing until a couple of years later on. And then once I started using the tarot and understanding that you can work with the astrology with the tarot, I again self-developed for the rest of it, read lots of books, studied lots of online, and just put it into practice with it without even thinking about it, just because it was a huge interest, just blended it together. And then before you know it, I'm out there doing it and working with it even more and teaching it. So again, there wasn't a plan. It was just a huge interest of mine. I just enjoyed blending. So the astrology came before the tarot, and now I blend the two.
Lucky. That's fantastic. And we were lucky to have you come down to our spiritual and psychic weekends. You've also been to our church at Wimbledon Spiritualist Church to give demonstrations and to run workshops. And despite a little bit of informal training from my mum and people like Auntie Rose Anderson that'll be probably watching later tonight, yours was the first time I'd ever had any type of formal introduction to astrology and tarot, and I loved it. And I love working with you and your energy anyway. But a question I would ask for help people understand is, what would you say is the best thing about working with you?
What's the best thing about working with me?
Yeah.
Oh, God, I don't know.
What do you bring to the party?
I'm quite, well, I'm quite blunt, as most people know, and I like to keep things real. I like to keep things down to earth and grounded. I'm not a big airy fairy. As much as I'm into all the guides and into all the angels, I'm not going to do a reading and say, oh, I've got all these angels around you and they're bringing out all these love and light messages. I try and keep it really grounded. So at the moment, I'm working with a lovely, lovely group of American students, and I've had some really great feedback on the way that I'm teaching. And a lot of it is because it's down to earth, it's grounded, and it's a foundation. So it's quite basic. I don't try and lose people with fancy words or giving them too much where it's just overwhelming. I just try and keep everything. I'm a typical Taurus with a Capricorn ascendant, so I'm really down to earth, and I think just basic and grounded. I think that's probably what I bring to it.
Yeah, I agree. I should say to people, I've not given you any advance warning of any of the questions tonight.
No.
I wanted to just keep it informal, like we're having a chat. And I agree with you. I mean, of course, your magnetic personality. I think I'm drawn in to want to be with you, and Colin also a fantastic energy to be around. But yeah, that plain English, it's so important. Obviously, there is an awful lot of complexity to how this all works at a deep level, but I was really impressed with how simple you made it for a newbie like me to sort of pick up the cards for the first time and start playing with them, start learning. So yeah, keep it simple. I think most people can then realize how they can work with the energy, work with cards, and work with that spirit. So I think that's a fantastic skill and talent that you bring to this. Do you enjoy demonstrating and giving readings, or do you enjoy teaching more?
All of it. I love it. I absolutely love, well, all of it. I didn't think I would want to do the platform side of things. And up until lockdown, I was just training in the mediumship platform. But I started with my friend Suzette, who's a medium, going out doing tarot and mediumship demonstrations on platform together, and I absolutely love it. Absolutely. So I found that actually I do like being on stage. Who'd have known? Center stage. But I love the teaching side, because I love to be able to help people understand that it doesn't have to be as difficult as what you might think. It's not as scary. And yeah, and I love doing one-to-one readings to be able to help somebody. I've recently started to do a life coaching course, because I found that in my opinion, you read the tarot cards, but if you want to give anything else, it's down to your opinion. It will be your opinion, whether they should do this or do that. I don't think you should really say that in a tarot reading. You should say what the cards are and leave your own judgment and opinion behind. So this spiritual life coaching course gave me the tools to be able to then say, right, now this is what's going on. If you want to get to C from A to B, these are the tools that you need. So it's not just my opinion, it's actually a coaching side of things to give them something else to motivate them or to help them get where they need to get. Because sometimes people will come in for a reading and they, well, that's all very good, but how do I get there? And I just didn't feel qualified enough to be able to say, well, do this or do that. But so you can add things to it, which I think helps. So I love all of it.
That's
Anything to do with helping people.
Great answer. And sometimes in this spiritualist world, particularly now with the consumer sort of regulations about making sure we're able to deliver what we promise to do, there's a sort of line drawn in the sand between providing someone with advice and a steer as opposed to helping. And being able to let people interpret things. I sometimes describe my mediumship as a spiritual catchphrase, and try not to interpret it too much. Just tell them what it is you see. So if you were describing tarot cards to someone that had no idea what a tarot card is, and I've got my mate Gary I'm going to pick on. Gary and I used to play rugby together at Mitcham Rugby Club, started watching the show. So Gary's learning about lots of things in this sphere for the first time. But let's imagine this is for Gary and others that don't really know what tarot cards are and how they can be used. How would you describe them?
So for me, the way I use tarot cards they tell me for the client what situation they're in, what's going on around them now, what's coming up in their near future, and possible answers to questions. So will they get the job? Is it going to be worth investing X amount of money into something? Is their partner going to come back to them? Possibly those sort of questions you can see within the cards. The tarot cards, it's all possibilities, although I do feel that the cards will always be right. The situation, you've got your free will, so the situation around may change, but the meaning of the card, the basic foundation is still going to occur, but it just could slight change direction there. So they give you interpretations of your life, what's going on really, and how you can best achieve your best life. If you've got challenges, it helps you understand how you can overcome them challenges. Forewarnings. So if you've got some cards and it says, no, you're not going to be happy in that job, or if you take that pay rise, maybe you'll have lots of money, but you might not be fulfilled. So then you might think, well, okay, maybe I won't take that job, then I'll go down a different road. So it gives people ideas of how they can improve their life.
I love that phrase, and it was a great answer, but that phrase in particular about helping someone live their best possible life, really quite powerful. And sometimes when people come into spiritualism or to see a medium for the first time, above and beyond that evidence of life after death, which you can get through mediumship, there is this element of so what next? I believe in it now. I believe there's a life after death. So if there is a life after life and people can communicate from spirit, other than to say they're okay, what else? And I think this idea of helping people through that advice, through working with that energy and understanding the cards, it's really good. Now, we've been doing this show throughout lockdown. I think that we must be coming up to around a year now, Richard. We're certainly probably close, 11 months of doing the Being Spiritual series. But Richard, and before Spiritual Psychic TV was Spiritual Productions and Spiritual Connections. And Richard was and you, Kate, were part of a first for me, because it was the first time I'd ever had my mediumship recorded. And you had invited me down to give a demonstration at your centre, and Richard was there at the back with his camera. So tell us a little bit about your centre down on the South Coast.
So I've just renamed it from Mystic River Lounge to Mystic Coffee Lounge. I just had this little epiphany that making it a little bit more of what it is, which it is a mystic coffee shop. So it's a regular coffee shop, and we also sell crystals and books, and obviously tarot cards, angel cards, all sorts of unusual spiritual gifts. And it's where, when we're open, it's where I do all my one-to-one readings. It's where I hold my teachings. We do free talks. We do monthly mediumship demonstrations, psychic development classes. We have people coming in to do different workshops. So it's a whole range of things, all to do under the spiritual umbrella when it's open. And we've got therapies there with Gemma, bless her. She's in hospital at the moment with COVID, so we need to send her lots of healing. But we have Gemma does all our therapies and all our facials and all the pampering treatments side of it. So it's a little bit of everything really on a holistic and mystic vibration. Plus you can have coffee and cake.
Lovely. That's my perfect combination of spiritualism with coffee and cake. That works really well. So obviously we are in the middle of a national pandemic. Have you had to close totally?
Yeah, we could open, if I wanted to, I could open takeaway, but it's not really worth it if it's not busy enough up the road. Plus I'm homeschooling anyway, so trying to juggle the shop and the homeschooling is just not working. So it was easier just to close it. I can still do all my readings and teaching online, which I like doing that. That works just as well. So yeah, I'm all home at the moment, and hopefully maybe March, April, maybe April, May, we can go back in. But I started to go in just once a week on a Thursday because we're still selling stock online. So it gives people a day then I can be in and they can come and collect their stock there. But generally it's closed at the moment.
Right. And for people that want to pick up on some of your online content, should they go to your Facebook page? Is that the best place for that?
Yeah, they can either go to my Facebook page, with the pages Kate May Tarot Psychic Medium, or my group Kate May Modern Day Mystic, or just my website. Everything's on the website. They can get to me through that.
Right. And I know you're still hosting demonstrations of mediumship, because I had the honour of performing for some of your coffee sort of congregation last week.
Yes, yeah. So we've just started that. Lots of people asked me last year, and I just was too busy doing lots of other things. And I thought that's in January we'll start it. So we've just started our monthly online mediumship demonstrations. Yeah, and you was our first one this year, Ashley.
It was a great privilege to be there. And yeah, hopefully as this all starts to blow over, we'll have another church trip from Wimbledon to come and see you. You've got to think
that'd be
positive.
Lovely.
Look forward to nice things, and coffee and cake are always nice things amongst spiritual friends, even better.
Yes, definitely.
So it was a really good description of tarot, and Phil Shaw was just commenting there that he thinks it can be a wonderful tool for psychological and spiritual development too, helping people manifest their potential, he mentioned, and it's a very enriching experience. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. You can go as deep as you want with the tarot. You can go super, super deep and bring in all the numerology, the astrology, the Kabbalah connections to it. You can really go on a really deep level, or you can keep it just on the general surface, depending on what you want. And depending on, for me, it depends on what my clients are. A lot of my clients, if I went too deep into the meanings of the sort of the real deep essence of the card, it would lose them. They're coming to see me, most of them, to see if they're going to get that job, or if they're going to get that partner back, or what direction is their life in, and why they're at a crossroads, how they can get themselves out of that. The actual deeper stuff, I think, is going to come in with the life coaching. Then I'll bring in the tools of the tarot with the life coaching. So, but it depends on your clients, but you can go as deep or surface as you want with it. But it definitely helps with your spiritual development, because you're working with symbols there. So you're opening up your psychic energy anyway, and then you're pulling all the symbols, colors, any patterns that are on the card. If you're working with numbers, however many 4s there are, 3s there are, whether it's a major or whether it's a minor. So there's so much symbology in the tarot that it really would enhance your psychic development.
So when I've described mediumship to people on this show, I've often spoke about clearing my mind's eye, bringing forward my sort of guides to help me produce a communicator, and that communicator is then the evidence that I'm giving of someone's sort of life after life. How would you describe the way that you work with the cards when you're giving sort of a public demonstration, perhaps, with them?
So if I'm doing a public demonstration, then usually with Suzette, where she'll do much more of the mediumship side, and I'll link in with the psychic from the cards. Yes, we have our own little things in our heads that our own little mantras to build the energy before. And normally I will be drawn, if I'm working on a demonstration, I'll be drawn to somebody just like you might be doing the mediumship demonstration. And then whichever card that they picked, I would be reading the card, but you layer it. So even whether it's a demonstration or whether it's a one-to-one sitting, you've got the basic card, and then you layer it with a different psychic foundations, so you can go in at a different level, and then the mediumship can come in as a third layer. So you end up building and blending everything together. So not only have you got the card, you then might think, actually, I'm also getting this information on a psychic level. And then you might think, oh, actually, grandma's just joined me and she's able to say this as well, blah, blah, blah. So it works different for everyone, and it works different for every client, but it's a blend of all of them. But I do get into the sort of moment before each reading. I do have a little headspace. I have a little mantra that I say before I do each reading to get me in that space. But the energies will be different with whoever I'm working with.
Lovely. And I'd love the opportunity to maybe work as a spiritual medium alongside you one day in the future when we've got the opportunity. I think
Definitely
a wonderful thing, and certainly been on the other end of receiving a message from you, some fantastic evidence of exactly where I am in my life and perhaps where I've come from, but certainly the direction I'm going in. And I find it all quite fascinating. I've also loved the way that astrology has been a sort of blend within that, and certainly during the workshop, learning more about astrology. You mentioned horoscopes as one sort of arm of that. How do you work with astrology in your sort of your own day-to-day life?
So with my own day-to-day life, I look at all what the moon is doing, what moon phases, where the planets are. I know my chart quite well. So I'll be looking, like today we've got the full moon in Leo. So I will be looking at, it's in my 7th house. I'll be looking at what that means and how that's going to come into fruition with the moon's phases. So I usually work astrology with the moon's phases. When I'm doing astrology with tarot for clients, I'll be looking at all the houses. So you've got the 12 houses. So I'll be looking at their first house themselves, their money in their second house, all of it right up until the 12th house to do with their spiritual. So you've got career, you've got house, you've got family, you've got home, all within those 12 houses. So I'll be bringing in the astrology with that. And then obviously with the court cards, which are the people cards, then I'll be bringing in, so if they get a person, so I don't know, just say the Knight of Wands, for example, we could be talking about an Aries or Sagittarius or a Leo. Their Knight of Pentacles, we could be talking about a Virgo. So then you'll be bringing in that essence of that star sign for that person. And then you can say, well, you're going to have a Virgo coming into your life. If it's a major card, so say, for example, it's the Scorpio, it's the death card, for example, you might say that's Scorpio, so that will be around November time. So you can use the timings to do with the astrology within the cards that way.
Nice. And you were saying that obviously about your own life, you said about the sort of the morning. So would that change what you were planning to do or how you were planning to do it?
No, I wouldn't change it, but it would give me a little bit of an insight as to how I'm going to be feeling or what's going to be occurring in that particular area. So when it does happen, I'm like, oh, that's because of that.
Sort of like an explanation, but adds some context to it.
Yeah. The only things I would be looking at on a new moon, there's certain things that I wouldn't do on a new moon, or wouldn't do, sorry, on a full moon, that I would wait for a new moon. And depending on what house it sits in, then I would think, well, I've got this new project I'm starting. I'm not going to start it until it's May, because my new moon will be in my certain house. So I'll work around it with that, but I don't generally let it stop me doing too many things, but I use it as a guide.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Phil was really interested in your spiritual development, and he said, with your life coaching and your spiritual development, is there a particular centre of excellence that you've gone to as part of that? Have you linked your sort of spiritual coaching?
I think it's called the Centre of Excellence. I think that is what it's called. Yeah, I started it lockdown last time. Obviously having the time. Just went online and you've got all the courses popping up. So I think it was there. I did a counselling course, oh gosh, how many years? 25 years ago. I did some counselling course then, and I worked for a company called Off the Record for a few years. So I did again, voluntary counselling. And I think counselling is quite good when you're doing, which I didn't realise at the time, that was 25 years ago. I didn't realise I'd be using my counselling skills in the reading, because it's all right just understanding what the cards mean or understanding what the moon's doing, but the delivering of it is so important, and the counselling skills have really helped in that. So I think to do some extra work behind the scenes is only going to support it. But I'm pretty sure the life coaching was called through the Centre of Excellence.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it shows great sort of professional discipline to if you like, your trade craft, when you're topping up as a sort of continued professional development in anything, but branching out, I think, is really important. And Leslie Knight, who's watching the show tonight, she's in charge of our spiritual healing at Wimbledon Spiritualist Church. And after 2 years, when new healers qualify for the first time, they're able to come back and do a counselling course now as a spiritual healer. I think it's really important. I also myself are looking to pursue a pathway to become an ordained minister in spiritualism. And it's funny in many ways, because I told my dad for years, I hope he wouldn't be offended, that I don't want to do anything spiritualist with my life. And then domino by domino, I've done one thing after the other. But I'm learning that a big part of ministerial work is actually having that ability to offer counselling, be that sort of spiritual counselling, understanding it. I think it's fair to say that being spiritual, being a spiritualist, it is a little bit like turning on a light sometimes in a dark world, and everyone can be attracted to that light. And we get a great combination of wonderful human beings, all on different parts of their life, different moods, high moods and low moods. But I think that we do attract people at vulnerable times in their life, perhaps
Definitely.
people that are grieving or going through things. And so having that professional sort of discipline around it and doing what you're doing, I commend you. But I wonder if you could tell us, without breaking any confidentiality, about that type of thing, where someone's coming to you and really they need sort of professional help as well as your spiritual help, and how you draw that line in the sand about what's in your scope and what's not.
Well, again, I think it's important as a professional reader that you've got other people's business cards. So I always I've got people that I would recommend as other readers. So if there's somebody that I can't read for whatever reason, and it's only happened, I don't know, a handful of times, but it's going to happen. So then I can, instead of just sending them out the door saying, sorry, see ya, I've got somebody else, well, I can't help you today, but maybe this person can. Counselling, again, I've got cards for recommended counsellors. So if I can see that maybe it's addictions, there's quite a lot of people with addictions there. There's a lot of people that, do a lot of self-harming nowadays, so I see a lot of young people with that, so I can give them something else. And that's the side of things that the tarot, some people might think, well, okay, I'll take you under my wing and I'll try and help you, but you can't if you're not qualified properly, or if you could end up endangering them even more. And if you've got a lot of clients, you just can't keep them all under your wing. It's just impossible. So I always have a list of different counsellors for different things. I've got different counsellors and I'll be drawn. I've also got a fantastic herbalist lady. So when there's people coming to see me and they're talking about that they're depressed and that they're on antidepressants, but they don't want to be on antidepressants, then I've got a herbalist recommended that I can say, well, check her out as well. So I think it's good to have a little sideline of people that can help if you can't help them all.
It's incredible, and what a fantastic reassurance for anyone that sort of knows very little, if anything, about this, knowing about all the work that people like you go into to make sure that the foundations of what you're doing become such a safe and secure place for people. Now, we've got a YouTube user. I assume it's not their first given name, Happy Joy, but good evening to you, Happy Joy. Let's call you JJ. JJ says that they would like to ask you a question, Kate. Now, it says they're not into Kabbalah, but they found out that 72 angels are somehow showing spiritual development, and it's connected with the natal chart too. And I feel there's a connection. So I've got to be honest, half of that I didn't really understand at all. So I don't know if any of that made any sense to you.
Okay, so I don't know. I haven't studied the Kabbalah at all. I know of it, but I haven't studied it. But yes, it's all linked to tarot. It's linked to astrology massively, and it is linked to the angels. So if you're asking there, that what were you asking? the
Just your
72.
thoughts on it, yeah, between the 72 angels, spiritual development, and the natal chart, if there was any
Yeah.
links.
So your natal chart, possibly, I don't know. I wouldn't say no for sure. It's not something that I've ever worked on, angels with your natal chart. But if you're into the Kabbalah, then it may be. But it's just like something I've not delved into. Definitely, the angels do connect with Kabbalah. Definitely. So if you're learning Kabbalah, then you would get an understanding of the angels side of it as well. But as far as the natal chart, the way that I work it is just with the astrology, the houses system, and the star signs, the planets.
Okay, Richard's just given me a school lesson on Kabbalah. Thank you, Richard. I learn so much from this show. I know some of you say you learn things too, so it's always great to take a spiritual advancement every day, as they say. Thank you for that question, JJ, and thanks, Richard, for your advice on Kabbalah and the links there with Judaism. So, friends, we are coming towards the second part of the show now. So, do make sure that you've got lots of questions ready for Kate. All right, as I say, in theory, you can ask us anything. Hopefully, it's something that we know something about that we can answer. But we'll probably be looking to go on for about another 20-25 minutes with your questions and answers. Phil said that Kate did an excellent tarot reading for me and have also had point readings from readers at Treadwell's bookshop in London, where I did my beginners and intermediate course. So I don't know if you got shares at Treadwell's bookshop, given a plug on the show, Richard, but thank you for the feedback and saying you got an excellent tarot reading from you.
Phil's hair looks different in his picture. He looks a bit darker in that picture.
I don't know how old your profile picture is, Phil. JJ says thank you.
You're welcome.
I like that. Happy Georgie. You can't help but smile, can you, with that profile name? It's very nice. So wanted to ask you about the other ways that you might work. So you spoke about the kind of like the way you live your own life and how you look for maybe understanding with sort of moon patterns or other things. When you're working for clients, do you make a decision on which sort of tools and talents you're going to go to, or do you wait for a draw, or do you wait for a direction from them?
Normally, I work with whatever energies is there. So if it's a one-to-one client, then I would probably say 8 out of 10 times I start with the cards and then I build into the psychic and then into the mediumship. Sometimes the mediumship, you know what it's like, the energy is so strong, the client will sit there and I haven't even had a chance to shuffle the cards, but they're loved ones that have come forward. So I'll do a mediumistic reading and then we'll get into the cards afterwards. But most of the time, say 80% of the time, I'm drawing between the psychic and the mediumship, sort of coming back and forth, particularly if it's an hour's reading. Then I'm not going to be able to hold pure spirit link for an hour. So it will definitely, I'll be going in between the two, the psychic and the mediumship. And sometimes the mediumship, it doesn't even come in. Sometimes it's just the cards. That's the information they need. And they may not even ask for a mediumship connection. They're quite happy with what they got. Sometimes at the end, they might say, is there anything from somebody in spirit? And then I'll kind of just build the energy for a minute. And then if I do get something, I'll say it. If I don't, I'll say no, not today. I'm not going to make it up. I'm quite honest with them. But I just go with whatever comes in first, really. So most of the time I start with the cards, but sometimes spirit can get there first.
It's lovely. And I say, a few of us watching tonight, including myself, that have been on the receiving end of a reading and really are quite lovely. Now, one of the things you taught me with the cards, one of the ways I could read them is by asking the client to touch the cards and perhaps shuffle them. Now, this last 12 months has forced so many of us to work in such different ways. And I was wondering if you could tell us about working with that type of energy where you don't have the client. So I obviously know that as a medium, the connection comes through. You still work with that energy. And I wondered how it is for you with the cards when people aren't touching them or charging them, for want of a better word.
So I think it's just because the intent is so strong. So I'll work exactly the same, but instead of them shuffling, I'll shuffle and I'll just tune into them. If I'm working with a video, I can chat to them. If I've just got a picture, if I'm doing a phone reading, Then I've got their photo. I'll always ask what star sign they are, so I can just tune into that energy. But yeah, intently, I'm working for them. I'm not thinking about anyone else, and I'm asking the cards their name. I'm repeating their name in my mind and putting the energy for them. And it doesn't seem like it doesn't seem to make any difference really. I
Yeah.
might not want people to touch my cards, but going back,
Yeah.
I might want to keep it all to myself from now on.
It, I say, it's certainly forced me to change the way I work in, and millions of others. But what an incredible thing that, you know, the energy and you mentioned the word intention. We've spoke before on this show about the power of intention, and how if you know nothing about the complex science or metaphysics of spiritualism, if you have a pure intention and you kind of surround that with unconditional love, how powerful that can be. And certainly when I've tried to do an address and perhaps try and give a message, I've tried to help people live their best possible life in that sense too, you know, that positive thinking and intention. How important do you think it is for members of congregation to have that positive outlook, to make sure that their intentions are positive? How does that affect their
Wow,
life?
I think really important. You are what you think. So if they're going to come blocked and wanting blood and not being open to things, it's going to make things a lot harder. And I personally, I wouldn't want to read for somebody like that. If I've got to prove myself too much to them, then that's not what I'm there for. But if you're open to it, and if you're thinking positively, you're going to be open to much better energy all around. Really, it's only going to block the other person if they're not open, or if they're just sat there with their arms folded and think, oh, I'd rather be at home watching football or whatever. You know, you can still get through to them, but it's not comfortable. It's not an easy flow really. And why work on that when you can work with the person sat next to him who's lovely and open, and it's going to be much better all round.
Yeah, and you know, to again, for want of a better word, it can act as a bit of a blocker.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, people thinking positive is good. We spoke a couple of weeks ago about the different challenges I'd had as a medium, from growing up, you know, working at my own church at Wimbledon and Hatbridge, and how that was like a comfort blanket, to suddenly going out. The first time I actually ever left the comfort of my own churches was Paul Cecil's sort of industrial sort of factory setup, you know, in one of his units, and then I came to your cafe. And doing those things sort of stage by stage, but of course you've still got spiritual and spiritualist people coming. And then the first time I ever did a room above a pub in the middle of a council estate one night with Ivan Lee for a charity event, you had half the congregation with their arms folded going, "You're a medium, prove it." Go on then, sort of prove there's life after death. And the energy in the room feels quite different. I've often joked to the church that we could run a workshop on how to receive a message or receive a card reading. It makes such a difference if you go in open-minded with a positive intention.
It does. And obviously you can still, those people could still be read. You could still give them exactly what's going on in their life. You could still give them evidential. And some people might be happy to prove, but on a personal level, I can't be bothered. I'm not going to put my energy in trying to prove something. You go and see a medium who wants to do all that, but not me. I'm there for the ones that want to see me, not for the ones that don't.
No room for ego in this.
Yeah. There's plenty of us out there. Go and get someone else.
Yeah, and you know, there's lots of people in the live chat giving you praise that have received readings for you. In fact, one of our long-term viewers, I think it was Heidi, was saying that you were the first person she ever saw on SPTV. So she's pleased to see you here tonight. Phil's been giving you Phil's been giving you your cafe and your workshops a good plug as well, just to make us convinced.
Thanks, Phil.
He doesn't have any shares in any of us, which is good. And you know, it is exciting. It's an exciting journey, I think, for people. We know that lots of people that have been watching SPTV have found something that they weren't necessarily looking for, and that the different sort of content in the show. And what we've tried to do with being spiritual is take people on a bit of a journey using my own philosophy as a foundation, and then branch out. Now, Heidi was saying she remembers because you were working with a very good friend of mine, and she was being nosy. So I don't know if you remember back to that, but yeah, great that we've still got people sort of year on coming back to the show and rebuilding the community after the fiasco of Facebook and gremlins and trolls.
It's a fantastic community that Richard's got here. Fantastic community. It's great.
They're having a good old chat. There's, I think, most of the comments aren't about spiritualism, are about best cakes to eat in your cafe when it reopens. So lots of people talking positive about coming down to the cafe, having a cup of coffee, and a private reading sort of in the future, which is really good. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about what's next, and you started talking about sort of counselling and linking that in. What do you think is perhaps then the next sort of chapter? So not necessarily you personally, but how do you think that spiritualism as a movement needs to evolve or need to move on?
Wow, I think it's doing really well with the Zoom side of things. I think it's reaching out to all sorts of people. I think it's really helping people that are stuck at home, lonely, bored, and maybe haven't got all the Netflix channels. So I think the Zooms and the YouTubes are just, that's exactly how it's evolving. I'm not sure where it's going to go next, because I think it's still evolving in that side. I think there's still more and more people that don't realise they can have access to all of this. It's easy and for free, really. So I think that's probably where it's going to continue evolving. Teachings, to be able to do more teachings and reach everybody from your comfort of your front room and their front room. So I think that's how it will evolve for a little while, and probably getting more and more people having an awareness of their own capability to it and being more awakened really from it all.
Lovely. And I think that philosophy and the sort of an education in that sense is a really important thing. I actually joked with Richard when I said, look, would you give me a platform? Let me see if we can get half a dozen people just to listen to a little bit about some of my thoughts and concepts on philosophy. It'd be great. So I'm pleased he hasn't sacked me yet. We've still got a handful of biggest mistake he said he's made, Richard. But the idea of starting to inspire people to live their lives differently. I love mediumship, and every time I read for someone or I give a demonstration, it feels like a new and fresh experience. One of my frustrations has been the sort of the limitations, not necessarily of my training, but the way I work in questions. You know, I can give evidence as I feel inspired by the communicator. Perhaps they're telling me about certain things going on in someone's life. But one of the fascinating concepts is me, and I've started to pilot this with people as a bit of an experiment, is ask the communicator some questions. You know, I'm not a DJ yet. I can't take requests and I can't bring forward certain communicators. But the difference between what I do that in that sort of pure mediumship with the communicator doesn't seem to have the same limitations with astrology and the cards. And you were mentioning that people can almost come in and not even need to meet a communicator. They're interested in, this is where I am. How do you think it looks from the helicopter position you might have of my life?
Yeah.
So why is it that people are coming for that? Why is it they want to know? Because we can't do fortune telling successfully, otherwise we would all be multimillionaires. But we can get a glimpse, can't we, of what's around the corner of the path we're on. So why is it so many people, do you think, are fascinated in that element of it?
Well, I can't speak for everyone, but for myself, I'm a bit of a control freak. So I like to know what's going on because I want to be in control of it. So I think maybe that could be to do with some people, why they're wanting to know what's going on, what's coming up. Maybe we haven't got quite the patience that we did have back in the day, or the trust and the faith. Maybe our faith and trust has been a little bit tested. So we want to just make sure that things are going to pan out. It's going to be probably a different reason for everyone. And like you said earlier, lots of people are vulnerable and they're all over the place. So they just want to know that they're going to be okay. They're not necessarily really care how things are going to go, as long as they're going to be okay on it. Get a lot of lonely hearts, get a lot of people that are either missing somebody from a breakup. Are they going to get back with them? That's a lot. Or are they ever going to meet their true love? Because they're lonely and they just want to see, is it ever going to, is it worth it? Is it worth continuing? Is it worth keep putting on the makeup every day or whatever? But for me, I like to know what's coming up, just because I'm a bit of a control freak.
No, it's good. I mean, it's a great answer. And I think that, it probably speaks true of me. I also think that, when I've had a reading with you, part of me is hoping to change something. Now, I'm going to ask you a question about sort of free will and destiny. So how much of what the cards and astrology have to sort of tell you can then tell a client is pre-written in destiny and is not open to the element of change because of free will?
So this is my theory on destiny and free will. I feel like you've got destiny. So you've got destiny is C, and then we're at A. Now you could go down a path B or another path B, if you like, two different pathways, and they were going to take you to your destiny. But you'll still experience what you have to experience, but either pathway is going to experience that in a different way. So whether you've got to experience love, grief, I don't know, whatever it is, you're still going to experience that. But each pathway, from your free will, you experience it and meet different people in a different way. But you're still going to end up where you need to end up, at your destiny. So with the cards, you can see whether it's going to work out well, whether it's not going to work out, but you've got guidance as to which pathway they could pick. If you carry on the pathway that you're going, this is what's going to be coming up. But your free will, you might think, actually, I don't want to get that little bump in the road, I'm going to go a different direction. Or you might think, when you've had the reading, you forget about it, go around the corner, take a different pathway, and you'll still end up with what's going on. The cards will still be correct, but the influence of your free will take it down a different pathway. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, it's a beautiful answer, actually. And again, I think something as complex as that, but in such a beautiful and plain English way, is a really nice way to hear it. Now, we did a show on reincarnation, and we spoke about the concept of your incarnation right now being the important thing to focus on. It's in part perhaps why you have no memory of any previous lives if you've lived one. Focus on what's going now. The basis being that you are trained, equipped and guided with everything you need in order to get to where you're going, and the journey along the way is going to be an element of what you're doing. So I love the way you sort of spoke around that fact that you're kind of still going to get to the finish line. Some of that is pre-written. Actually, the way that you experience it, the scenic route or the motorway or over and up mountain, is kind of up to you. And I suppose to a certain extent, then, if I was to come to you and I was on a particular path, I was on that expressway, and I was asking whether or not this was working out well for me, that probably means I've preloaded it, because it wasn't. And actually, I'm looking for a bit of guide.
Yes, yeah. And a lot of the time people will say, I'll start the reading, because I don't like to be told. I don't like the client to tell me what's going on. I like to tell them what's going on. I like to gain their trust, and then at the end they can ask me questions. And most of the time, and in fact, I think it should be that whatever you're saying to them makes sense. They already know it. It's all there in their head, but it might be all mixed up, like a mixed up jigsaw puzzle. So all you're doing is putting everything into its correct place. So when they go out the door, they feel clear. They know that what you're talking about makes sense because they're already aware of it all. Otherwise, you could say absolutely anything. So for me, it needs to make sense. It needs to be what they're already thinking, but they just can't. It's all jumbled for them. So you're just putting it into a clearer patch for them.
I also love the other thing you said about the experience. That you're gonna experience the things that you're meant to experience. And I suppose what you're saying is that depending on the free will and pathway, you might get a different flavour of that experience.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
So I'm very happy with with my love life. I've been married to my best mate now for 15 years together. 20. We got two little boys, and I'm very happy. Hypothetically, let's say I wasn't. I was miserable. And my son Ethan, I think, is watching with my dad tonight. So I'm not Ethan. It's just hypothetical. I know you can't spell that word yet, but we'll explain it to you. And I came to you and I thought, I'm not happy. I'm a bit miserable. Things aren't going right. Can I walk into a private reading with that sort of intention? I think if my true tribe or love is actually just round the corner, or does it not work like that?
Yeah, it could do. I wouldn't know until I was reading. So I'll literally just say what the cards mean in their positions. So it may pick up that you're not in a relationship that you're happy, but you're going to go on a different, maybe there's a separation coming up and that you are going to meet somebody. Could mean that I can see a separation and that you're not going to meet anyone. Or I could see that you're just going to be quite unhappy because you're not going to do anything about it. You're going to stay where you are. Right. So yeah, it could be different. It depends what they would say.
Very accurate. And that segues nicely into a question we've just had about sort of readings. I always start my mediumship by saying I'm very well fed, which is true. So never feed me information. You just made that point that you want to tell the client how they are as opposed to ask them. So we had a question there of what is the best advice. I think Stacey Bishop. I don't know if that's my mate Stacey from Wales actually. Stacey says, what advice would you give to someone coming for a reading for the very first time?
So I always say I'll be gentle with them. And if they're very nervous of the tarot, then I'll say I'll use angel tarot. So it's the same meanings, but they're just softer pictures. So instead of the death card, which might freak them out, if they're really brand new or if they're feeling really vulnerable, then it's got a nice releasing picture, I think, on the death card for the angel tarot. But because I know the tarot meanings, I'll still use the meanings, what I know, but you're visually seeing something a bit softer. I always say to people at the beginning, I'm not going to tell them what to do. I'm just going to tell them what the card means in that position. Then they've got free will and I don't have their life responsibilities on my shoulders, because I definitely don't want that. And that kind of breaks the ice a little bit there. And I just explained, this is how I'm going to work. You don't need to be scared of anything. If you do get the death card, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to die or anyone else is going to die. So I explain a couple of the tower and a few of the sort of scarier looking cards just to put them at ease. But they very rarely come out anyway, especially on the first time, because I think Spirit know that these guys don't want to be freaked out. They want to be helped. So they tend to kind of give them a little bit of a softer run anyway. And then we just go from there, really. They pretty much know. Most of my clients are recommended anyway, so they know that I'm quite down to earth and I'm not going to fluff it up too much, but I'm also not going to send them out the door ready to run under a bus there. So I just explain how I work, explain that I'm not going to tell them what to do, and that it's just a guide and they can take with it what they want there. And they can ask questions at the end of every session. They can ask questions.
Oh, really great advice. Thank you. And if someone wanted to book a private reading with you off the back of what they've seen tonight, is there much of a waiting list for them at the moment?
Nothing next week, but the week after. So it's what is it, 10 days, something like that.
So people can get in touch. Julie Caswell's got an interesting question, and I'll get you to answer it first from your sort of talents and strengths, and then I might add a caveat as a spiritualist medium without the X of the cards. So Julie says, have you ever seen in the cards that someone is going to pass? Would you tell that person?
So yes, I have, and most likely no, I wouldn't. Depends. It's not the general thing that you would do, and I wouldn't advise anyone to do it, really. Sometimes if somebody's got a terminal illness and they come to you, they know that they're going to pass, obviously we all know we're going to go at some point, but they may know that they've only got 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is. So if then it becomes obvious that, and it would come obvious in their cards, but it would also become obvious with the psychic vibration, then I would say things like, are you aware that there's healing around you? Are you aware that there's doctors? And then if they're saying yes and yes, and I may say something like, you're going to be needing a lot of strength coming up, and I can see a transition, I can see some changes coming in for you. If it led into them saying to me, I've got terminal cancer and I've been told I'm going to be 6 months, I'm still not going to say to them, I can see November, you're going to pop off. But I might say, well, okay, yes, you can see it in front of you. You've got the death card there, perhaps, so you can see I can't change things, but you can still, there's things you can do. So I wouldn't really emphasize that. I would talk about other things. If I was seeing that somebody was going to lose somebody, or if there was going to be a death, unless it might be obvious to me, but unless they actually brought it to me, then I wouldn't go down that road. And I don't think people should go down that road unless they're super experienced and they know they're going to be bang on. And again, this is where the counselling comes in and the delivering. I've had to clean up quite a few readings where someone did go around telling people that their partner was going to die and their uncle was going to die, and gave them dates, and it never came about. And then when they've come to me, I'm like, I can't even see how they would have got that, but they should never have said it, and it wasn't true. So all it did was worry them. So it's not something that is promoted at all there, but very occasionally, I think 3 times, it was obvious that it was going to happen, and it would have been weird if I didn't say it. But use your head, really, use your experience, use your head, and at the end of the day, you've got to be there to help them, not to make them feel like, oh God, it's not really worth me living 3 months.
Lovely answer. Beautifully put. That was my friend Stacey. Gives us a big Welsh hello. So lovely to have you listening in, Stacey. Best wishes to you, James, and the family, and everyone to stay sort of safe and healthy. The reason I said I might add a caveat to your answer is that I was going to put in the importance of education or circle or development training. The beautiful thing about spiritualism, cards to a certain extent, is that everyone can pick up a set of cards, but how you use them, the discipline that comes behind it, your education, that starts to become the talent and it starts to become the strength. In fact, I think I'm almost quoting something I read on your website once before around the difference between sort of professional, non-professional, and the fact that there are gifted people. The gifted side for me has always been around the talent, the personality, the consciousness of the instrument. You know, the way you do it is your skill, it's your talent, it's your gift.
It's the craft,
and actually
isn't
that
it?
discipline is therefore really important. And you've obviously put a lot of time investment into your education. Yeah, it is a craft. Great that anyone can go and buy a pack of tarot cards off the shelf, start reading them straight away. But as soon as you start seeing giving that reading to someone else, as soon as you start charging them, you get big responsibilities.
Absolutely.
Particularly as we spoke about the vulnerable side of people that do come to you. Now I'm lucky that I've actually got two of my circle leaders actually on tonight. And there was an element that came as a basic medium that you don't always say everything you see. You try to understand it and interpret it. You remember that unless any medical training, you don't do medical diagnosis. You don't give financial advice to people. These are sort of the basic disciplines that came with my learning. And I really like the way you eloquently put your sort of answer around the cards, that personal responsibility to deliver the message, to tell them and help them understand the context behind the cards without giving it too much. So thank you for that. Talking of my circle leader, we've actually got 3 generations of family listening. So we've got my circle leader Christine, plus her daughter Kim, and her granddaughter Kaylee all watching the show tonight. And you could argue that with my dad and Ethan watching it too, so 2 family groups. Terry's saying that she's loving the philosophy this evening and always very interesting. I wanted to ask you then, a question while we wait for some more to come in, about the ability to change. So I love your answer around destiny, and I love the way you put that. If I got something given to me in a reading that I was sort of unhappy with, and that's possibly because of my lifestyle, my decisions that have got me to that point in the first place, is part of you seeing it in the cards an opportunity to change my path, knowing of course I'm still going to head towards the same finish line? We might have lost Kate, actually. You're back. You there, Kate?
Yeah, I'm there. Can you not hear me? I can see you.
Yeah, you broke away very. It was like a Victorian séance then, and I was saying, "Is anybody there?" But you're back.
Yeah, I'm wondering because my batteries are about to die, and I'm wondering if it's that. But the internet does seem to be funny. You were really slow at one point. It's my internet, is it?
It's my internet. My internet. Yeah. Okay.
I know.
So,
I'm aware.
Sorry about that, folks. If I was breaking up, you're good, Kate. So, did you hear my question?
Yes. So, again, it's hard to say. I'd have to just say what the cards were telling me to say, really. So it could be that you're still going to be on self-destructive, or it could be that you're going to get yourself back sorted again. You would have guidance there, and this is where I feel doing the life coaching course that I would then be able to give that guidance. Without that, I didn't feel that I would be able to give my opinion or any extra help. It would just sort of come from me then, because they're only coming for a tarot reading, they're not coming for counselling or life coaching. But adding that string to it, you can then say, look, if you are needing extra help, there's this and there's that. But I would just have to say whatever comes up in the cards.
Oh, lovely. Thank you very much. And we are sadly coming towards the end of the show now. We've got a couple of minutes, folks. If you've got any other questions you do want to get in. Kelly was just saying that 17-year-old daughter has been sat at the kitchen table today for the first time with her first set of tarot. She's had them over 12 months and has just started to study them. So yeah, I always say there's no such thing as a coincidence. It's more of an NCIS Gibbs rule, but yeah, quite nice.
Lovely.
Okay, so Christine Davis says, have you ever had a spirit be nasty to you?
No.
I can't say that I have either, actually. I've certainly had mischievous and cheeky evidence of personalities and their consciousness. You know, I don't believe people become angels overnight when they pass over, but I do think that your guides and for me with my mediumship guide and my doorkeepers, they would have a lot to answer for if they were letting people come in that were going to be nasty. Is it a similar thing with the cards?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a massive fan of negative spirits anyway. But no, I've never had an issue. I think when I very first started, I had a uncomfortable experience. I was reading for a guy, and I was quite new, so I didn't have the confidence really. But as I was reading his cards, his dad in spirit came through and really pulled me away from the cards, and was quite aggressive, and said he didn't like his son. And I was like, oh my God, I can't tell his son. His dad didn't like him. So I had to really think about how to word it. And I said to his son, I think I've got your dad here. And he said, oh God, I hope not. And I said, okay, well, there's a little bit of animosity here. And he's really not wanting me to do the cards. Every time I keep going back to him, he's pulling me away. And he sort of just shrugged his shoulders, didn't get much out of him. And I just knew that his dad didn't like him. And when I finished the reading, I'd said to the lady that I was working with, who was a working medium, I had this really weird experience, told her. And she said, actually, I know the son. And the son ran off with the dad's wife. So when the dad died, he couldn't bear him. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll put that down to experience. But he wasn't nasty spirit. He was just letting me know that he really wasn't happy with his son, and he certainly didn't want to give him any help or guidance of any kind. So for me, it was a learning curve, and it was a good experience. That they don't always come through saying I love you and everything's wonderful again. It was what it was. But he wasn't nasty with me. But I did definitely feel that aggressive anger towards his son. No wonder, really.
And in many ways, incredible evidence of their life after life. It shows that it is still them. It's still the same personality and consciousness. One of the things that I once was told, I think it was Graham Watson that said this to me once, but he said, isn't it funny how when you first start off as a medium giving evidence, you get lots of people's nans and granddads that all love their grandchildren and say it's going to be okay. And he said, why don't you get people that turn up and are a bit mischievous, and boyfriends and lost girlfriends and people like that. And it was Graham's way. I think it was one of his workshops at one of our spiritual weekends of challenging you to get the true evidence. And what you just said there, that's exactly what it is. You've got true evidence of someone's personality and their life after life.
Yeah, and maybe if I was more experienced at the time and more confident, I could have been able to work that a bit better, but I didn't really know what to do with it.
I think that, yeah, it's true, but you sounds like you dealt with it really well. And I also like the fact that, I said I haven't mastered to DJ level yet. I can't summon certain personalities. When I worked out in America, I was fascinated that they did it the other way around. You could sort of turn up in America, sit down, and they say, right, who do you want to talk to? You go, my nan, please.
Yeah,
you go, one moment. Here's
your
nan. And I thought, well, does it work like that just across the pond, or is it that their understanding of the energy and the communicator?
Yeah.
Whereas I think the cards, to a certain extent, it's almost like fascinated with the science behind the astrology and the tarot, and you're getting your reading from that with a little bit of an input from perhaps a communicator along the way too.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, well, it's coming up to 9:10. We usually get to about 9:15, and the thing starts to fall over. So I think, we've got one last question from Gary, my mate from Mitcham Rugby Club, actually. So you've managed to grab the last question, and he says, Kate, have you ever had a reading for a non-believer?
Yes, I've done a few. Quite a few actually come in the shop, and they're just a little bit skeptic, and then they walk out and then they can't talk. A few.
And I mean, as a spiritualist medium, I prefer not to know till afterwards.
Absolutely, so do I. Yeah,
There's
too much
something still.
pressure.
Yeah, you need enough ego to get up and deliver a message in the first place,
Absolutely.
but not too much that you want the challenge. You know, I mean, I gave the
Yeah.
example of the pub crowd. You know, go on then, sort of prove it. But actually, it's nice to get feedback from someone. You find out afterwards it was their first reading, and
Absolutely, yeah.
it was evidence. Right, actually, John managed to sneak in with one more then. So John said he has had a spiritual battle with a person sending evil spells to a client who had asked for healing. And I guess what John's asking there for is a little bit of advice from you, Kate, and I. Do you want to go first?
So he's had a spiritual, because I only see half the question.
He's had a spiritual battle with a person who's been sending evil spells to a client who has asked for healing. So I think his client has been asking him for healing, and he's been talking about what he's describing as a spiritual battle. But I guess this is another human being that's sort of sending the opposite of positive intention out to someone who's asking for healing as a result.
Well, I do get that you can do that, because I think, you know, we ask people to send healing energy out, and we know that that works. So if somebody thinks negative thoughts about someone, then that can work as well. You know, you can't have one without the other. Can't receive positive thoughts and then say, well, the negative. So I do think that you can send negative thoughts out, whether it's a spell or whatever. I do think that that energy can be sent, and if you're sensitive, it can be felt. Definitely, you might feel like you've got a sort of cloud over you. You know, some people call it a psychic attack, different words. But the best way for me personally to deal with it is, if you do feel that that's being done, then to ask your guides, angels, whoever, just to remove it, and just to visualize that removal of that energy. Put a little mirror. I work with mirrors, so put a mirror around so you deflect. You're not giving anything bad back out. All you're doing is deflecting any energy. But you can feel it when people do have a little bit of a go, and it just feels, for me, it just feels like a little bit of a cloud. But you know, you can ask it to be removed just as much as they've sent it. You can give it back. You can get it taken off. Just work with your guides and your angels or spiritual people, whoever you want, and ask for it to be removed. And that's how I feel it works. But everyone's going to have their own different opinions of it. But for me, that's what I would be doing.
Yeah, I mean, another great answer, I think. And, you know, the only thing I'd add to that is I believe that light is more powerful than darkness. So you can extinguish darkness with light, and
Definitely.
that unconditional love is more powerful than hatred or anything sort of evil in intention. One of the most powerful things I ever heard, again, was something simple. And as a lady who describes herself as a white witch or a sort of pagan, and she gave me this concept about turner be turned. And the idea that anyone that's sending you something negative, you kind of kill it off with love. You send them love. You ask that, you assume there's some sort of spiritual sickness within them. You ask for the person that's sending it to be healed, and that love in itself starts to turn it. And whatever they're sending out comes back onto them. So I think, the important thing is, understand anything to do with your healing or your mediumships, about understanding who it is in the spirit world and around you that's helping you, your angels, your guides, whatever you want to call them, establishing that protection, protecting yourself, and looking for that person to kind of kill off any darkness with love, with kindness.
Love wins over hate.
Yeah, absolutely. It's powerful, and as a spiritual community, I like to say that that's the way we show unconditional love. It's through service. It's through doing things like that, John, and others. So, John, with your permission, we can always think about your client and send them all some healing tonight. But what I'll do now is I'll just take a couple of adverts. We'll do, and then a thank you and a close. So before Richard brings up anything, I know that there will be some mediumship tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. I'm not sure who is the medium tomorrow, but tune in live from 8 p.m. on YouTube, Spiritual Psychic TV. You're going to have a wonderful demonstration of mediumship. Who's your medium tomorrow, Richard? Edward Saunders. So tune in for that, folks, tomorrow night at 8 p.m. And then on Sunday morning, from 11 a.m. do check in and see Reverend Mummy and Daddy at Wimbledon Spiritualist Church with the Divine Service. We have a lovely medium whose name I can't remember. Is it Sue? Possibly. You might know, Richard. It's a lady. I've narrowed it down to 50% of the population. I was just talking to my dad about it a couple of hours ago, but she'll be demonstrating mediumship. We've got an address from my mum, some readings now. I think Phil Shaw is actually given a reading, but you'll have some free mediumship, folks, every Sunday morning from 11 a.m. live from Women and Spiritualist Church. So we can't open the doors, but we can switch on the broadband. So do check out the divine service. And then if you've got some time in the afternoon, you can chill out on the couch with the ladies and the Sunday sofa. You've got free readings there Sunday afternoon from 2:30 live on Spiritual Psychic TV. And we have a wonderful evening for our fledglings on Sunday night. And for all of you that are a VIP, a very important patron of Spiritual Psychic TV, with Sam Clark, Deb Clark for the divine service Sunday. So if you're interested in becoming a VIP, folks, check out the patron page. Have a look on the Spiritual Psychic TV fan page on Facebook. You can find more details, and ultimately you can donate $1.50, £1.50 each month towards Spiritual Psychic TV. It gives you access to the VIP rooms and the exclusive evenings, so lots of wonderful opportunities to do that. I want to say a warm thank you to Kate May. You've been absolutely amazing this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your pearls of wisdom and giving us all, including myself, some lessons on astrology and the tarot. Really lovely to have you here this evening.
Thanks, Ashley.
And thank you, Richard James in the studio, that's done a wonderful job of producing not just this show, but all of the shows. Richard, you're a diamond, mate, and thank you so much for giving us the platform to do this. Lots of lovely feedback and thank yous coming in, including Christine Woodham. So she's really enjoyed this evening. It's always interesting sending people in our thoughts. Yeah, absolutely, Christine. Thank you. And thank you for giving me my first bits of formal training in circle. Jim says great show, and he's enjoyed it too. Lots of people that really enjoyed it this evening. So remember, folks, if you have enjoyed it, do give us the thumbs up. Let us know that you've enjoyed the show. Chat about it perhaps and ask us other questions on the fan pages. And remember, do share this stream. Help us build this community and build the audience. Terry, thank you for your feedback. She said it's been a wonderful show with some fantastic information. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to stay safe and healthy. We've built up some lovely energy tonight, and if you do believe in the power of prayer, please just sit quietly just for a moment and think about the opportunity to send that energy out. We send out unconditional love, light, and some laughter, some much needed laughter in a dark place at times, to everyone that needs it. May they recover speedily from any sufferings, and may we be able to get together soon for that physical embrace. For now, we send our love out virtually, remotely, safe over hyperspace. Good night, God bless, and thank you.
Thanks.